Hey folks, it's Emily and welcome back to another speed build. This one was created for the Sparked Challenge. As you may know or not, I have done several of those. They're the only builds that I do that I don't use the tool mod. So every time I do a Sparked Challenge, it's always a little bit tricky for me just because I'm so used to using that mod to kind of perfect things or, do things creatively. And so that was absolutely the big challenge. That is the absolute biggest challenge of doing the Spark Challenge, is not being able to use mods as I build. So for this, I knew I wanted to make a snow globe. I mean, the challenge literally is a snow globe, shake things up. And so for me, I took a literal translation of that and made a snow globe. And so here you'll see I wanted to create a base, basically like this whole unit that you would pick up and shake. And so we have a base and then we have some landscaping around it, and then in the back center you'll see there with that transparent inverted roof there is like the snow globe section that you would have. So I kind of flew through that. I created this on Twitch stream, so this is my very first build and or speed build that I have created on stream. And unfortunately, part of it, the end part where I decorate the train, I don't have included, but we have most of it here. And so it was a little bit awkward trying to edit the stream, so that was kind of a first for me. So this whole thing is just a little bit different than I'm used to, a little bit out of my comfort zone. I still really liked the way that it came out, so please forgive me if the video has it's a little bit more awkward than normal, but so I'm using the mouse hole there. I think that's from, must be Cats and Dogs. I used to think it was from City Living, but I do think it's from Cats and Dogs to kind of bring that, make that cave that the train is going in and out of look a little darker, a little more mysterious. And then here we're just using the different heights to get things at the right position. So those different heights of the floors, I can just drag them up and down as I see fit. I do use this technique a lot. And so I first put that roof on one of those sections so that I can raise it up and down, that inverted roof I'm talking about. And then we're using that dollhouse we placed on a roof just to get it upside down. I knew I wanted to have that main base that is just a pool or like a fountain, blown up like a thousand times in the basement, because then I could still use the terrain tools and it wouldn't displace it. So that was really important to me. I actually started this build on stream the first day on Saturday, and then I had it come to me. I had several ideas come to me during the night, and so I started it over on Sunday from scratch, and this was one of it, that I could place this fountain in the basement and then I could still use terrain tools. So here you'll see I'm just because I'm creating the pools up above, the downstairs basement is actually conflicting with allowing me to place those pools the way that I want to. And so what I did in the end, I had to monkey around with it a lot, as you'll see here, but I'm just deleting little sections of the basement to try and make sure I can create that pool. So again, because the pool goes down into the ground, it can conflict with the basement in ways that if I had just drawn a wall, it wouldn't. So you see here, I'm just kind of drawing out to see where it will accept the pool and then what I need to delete there. And go down below and delete. So in the end, I was able to determine that enlarged pond is actually only sitting on 2 squares. It took me a while to get there. I'm a little bit embarrassed of how long it actually did take me to kind of figure that out and make that work. But here it's just kind of the rough beginnings of what I'm planning on doing. I wanted to create a series of waterfalls. And so it was going to be different levels of pools, as you probably saw in the beginning. We made it work out. Different levels of pools that kind of flow into the other one. just as kind of a little, it's not, this lot is not meant to be functional. There's no sort of living area. This is really just a purely decorative holiday build that I just wanted to do and enjoy and have fun with. And so, you know, I wanted to have those pools here. You'll see we're just trying to create the second level, and then, you have to use those fountain jets to kind of get it to the perfect height, basically. And we're able to use the train tools around it, so I can really kind of embed it into the landscape. I did try to use that waterfall from Island Living, but that clearly wasn't going to work. I mean, I placed it out there for just a second and determined that actually the fountain there, this fountain tool, is going to look much more realistic in the way that I want it to. And I'm going to have a lot more control about how it looks and the direction I want it to point and things like that. So it's really fun. I don't do a lot of sort of cascading water with these, but I've seen a lot of people do them. And so I really like the way that it turned out. I have used that actual Island Living waterfall quite a few times, so it was nice to try something a little bit different. So yeah, we have these 4 different levels in total, kind of the river down below with these different waterfalls into it. I thought that was really, just really kind of a wholesome little, just kind of a feature that looked really nice over there in that area. And then we do have kind of the sledding where your snowmen can go sledding over on the right. So that was just cute. Again, it's not functional. This doesn't have any living space for your Sims. It was just purely a holiday decoration lot. And so that's very unusual for me. Really, I focus on creating lots that are practical, that are usable. Well, maybe not practical. Sometimes they get a little silly in the way that the way that the Sims have to use them, but they're always functional. I always create functional lots. So this was a little bit of a step outside of the norm for me, but I enjoyed it. Again, it was the first build I've done on stream. I did find that a little bit stressful, trying to talk to, people in chat, and then also, trying to focus on building. That was difficult. I really struggle with it. And so we'll have to do some more practice and hope that I get a little bit better. Here I'm using a debug item to create a train track, just trying to determine if I liked the enlarged version or if we have to stay small, which is what I did in the end, just because I didn't feel like I could get the angles that I wanted using the larger one. Like, it would have been too chunky and awkward, so I ended up using this smaller size here. We're just using that rug temporarily to create the shape of the train tracks, something for me to follow. This is a technique I saw from Kate Emerald of how to get shapes just perfect, and I use it all the time now. And we did place, there are train tracks that come with Eco Lifestyle, I believe, in the debug, but they don't have curves to it. They're just kind of straight. Well, there's 2 of them. One is just dead on straight, and the other one is a teeny tiny little bit curved, but not gonna be the amount of curve that I needed to make these from one cave to another. So I did end up just deciding we're gonna create our own here. Not very exciting content for on stream. Even here you're seeing it sped up, 800%. So I do feel bad for folks who have to watch this stuff live in slow motion on stream. But they come to hang out. They don't necessarily come to watch the building exactly. So, I have to remember that, I guess. But I knew there were certain elements I wanted to have, seeing as I used a reference picture basically on Pinterest of an actual snow globe that I found that you could, a snow globe you could purchase and have in your home. And again, it had this base, it had some sort of rock-like outcroppings. We had some trees. And I want to say, did we? I don't think we had the sledding snowman. We had a snowman a snowman in like the setting, like people were building, and then maybe people were sledding. I can't remember now at this point, but I'm making this voiceover like 2 weeks after I did this, so I should have looked at the reference picture first to kind of refresh me. And then in the back we did have that snow globe that had, of course, the house and things that you would shake up. So In this case, I ended up using the snowflakes. They're a wall decor, and we just end up placing those snowflakes kind of, floating, raising it up using the 9 and 0 keys, and that's how we got them to kind of look like they're floating. Unfortunately, again, that is the very final part that got cut off, so you won't see that. But here again, we're just using another debug item to kind of try and complete that train look. I'm not too worried about perfecting it. Again, if I could use a tool mod, I would have smoothed this all out and made everything perfect. They're not quite lining up the way that I would like them to, and with the tool mod I could get them to line up perfectly, but you're not allowed to use that in the Sparked challenges. So I just kind of had to settle for the way they were. But it's not too bad anyway, because the trains do cover up a lot of that. So just wanted to have these snowy escape trees that have the snow on them. I knew I wasn't going to have the pictures, I'm not going to take with snow on them on the ground because they cover up the roof, and so the snow globe all of a sudden you can't see through. So I knew I wanted to have the snow-capped rocks, the snow-covered trees, and then we do just paint the ground with a light colored, I think it's sand or maybe gravel, I'm not sure, that I wanted to kind of look like, to make it look like snow, just like a dusting of snow. So here you'll see the Totakalama relic. This is, I was explaining in the stream, this is my signature. I place this in every build, at least when I remember. So it is a feature of my Twitch that, they can remind me when we're done with a build. It's Totakalama time. We got to place that. It's the final thing we do. I saw Miss Griffey. She's got the same idea with a birdhouse, and so I loved that idea. That's her signature, and so I always put the Totakalama in my builds, and I thought, well, I could do the same thing on stream and just make sure that, it's the same idea, just my version of it. So I loved that idea, and credit to her for thinking of it. Absolutely. So we do include the Totakalama there. It goes on the train along with all the presents and the decorations. So that was something that I remembered to put in this build. I was really pleased about that. It may seem kind of random, but once you know the story behind it and that I use it in every single build, then it makes a little bit more sense. It's like my signature little, sort of Easter egg that I put in all of my builds when I remember. All right, so we have the trains going up. Here you'll see I'm just decorating the house that's in the snow globe. You don't see all of it. Again, it got cut off in the end that I do, but you'll see I'm just putting some lights here. I put a wreath on the front. We put just a little bit of decoration over the windows. Again, with the tool mod, I could have made this much more extravagant, but I have to work with my limitations when we're doing the Spark Challenge, and that is so challenging now. Like, it really is a challenge for me. It becomes a challenge just because I can't use the tool mod. So in that way, I actually really do appreciate having to kind of go back to basics and not use the mods for that. So that is kind of, it feels old school, like it's its own challenge. So here you'll see, again, just putting some of that greenery, trying to make it look festive for the holidays. I was thinking Christmas. I do celebrate Christmas myself, or Yule in my case, but it was kind of the look I was going for, wintry overall, but there are presents on the train, and we use a lot of evergreen and things like that. So indicative of Christmas or Yule, definitely. Here you'll see I'm just raising up those rocks from down below. These ones are not the snow-covered ones. I thought that it made it look too busy, and so I wanted to just have the water really be the focus of that area. I like the snow around the outside of it. It kind of frames it in a way, but if I had done the snow-covered ones down below, it would have been too much, I think. Too much white peppered throughout, whereas keeping it around the outside, I think separates that area a little bit. But by doing this from down below, it kind of this is the way we use it before we had tool. This is the way we did it before we had tool. We would raise it up from the basement. And so I went back to that old technique of trying to get those rocks to look like they're natural in that landscape without having to use the tool or without being able to use the tool mod. So here you'll see I'm just starting to get all of those little fountain jets. It's a water emitter that you would put in a fountain normally, so it's in the fountain category. But if you line them up, a bunch of them like this, it can actually create the look of a waterfall. And so that's the technique that I used. I turned them a little bit, so there's a little bit of variation. Some of them are a little bit higher, like it would be, going off of a rock, like spilling over a certain, different heights of rocks that are there. So, I have a lot of variation to kind of get it to try and look natural. If we line them all up the same direction in a row, I think it would have a lot different look and, in my opinion, a lot less natural. And so that's why I do add the little bit of variation that I do, just to try to get a little bit more natural feel to it. And in my opinion, that works better. So that's the way I did it for this build. So yes, the funny thing is when you place the sleds down, those are from Snowy Escape, you place them on the landscaping and they actually tilt down. Like they tilt with the landscaping. And so the shots that you see of the panoramic shots that I do in the beginning and the end, the sled is, pointed down. There it's actually flat, but normally it's down. And then when I replace the lot, it actually is flat again. So there's something weird that's going on with those sleds. But so if you see that discrepancy, that's what's going on. Just a little final fencing to kind of finish things off there. And with that, I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful holidays. See you soon.